and then really after a while, I think when the business just became manufacturing,
Right.
I kind of got bored. But then I had the inclination back to music, you know, even though the first 2 or 3 years, 4 years, I never thought about it.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I'm really missing music. So then I went for an audition with Roger Chapman's Streetwalkers at Manos. And Manos had 4 or 5 studios. Kings Road was quite down market then. There was 4 studios. And as I'm auditioning with Roger Chapman, who I really liked, Family, the band Family.
Oh, of course, right.
Yeah, you know, the violin player. Yeah. It was a really great band.
I think everyone we've interviewed auditioned for Family. I think.
Yeah, Streetwalker and
Sal
Streetwalkers.
Maida,
Yeah.
Fraser, everybody wanted to be Family.
It was Roger Chapman was. But Family was one of the bands I saw in London as a teenager.
Okay.
You know, so it was of influence.
John Gustafson.
That's right. Yeah. So as I'm auditioning or playing with Roger Chapman and co, I could hear the band through the wall and thinking, it's quite Lou Reedy, that. Who's? And then there's a sort of communal area, and we came into the communal area, and the band came out of their room, and I happened to know the bass player, and you know, I said, who you playing with? I said, it's a band called The Only Ones. I'm just doing a session. You know, it really is just a session. I've no plans to join them. And there was also 2 very beautiful girls standing around, came out of the same room. Wow. And so when they all walked back in, I'd finished my audition with Roger Chapman. So when they all walked back in, I kind of did have my eye on this girl. Or just you know, they're very beautiful. And so I walked into the rehearsal room thinking, well, I know the bass player, so I'm okay. And I'm sort of watching the band. I'm sort of looking over at these 2 girls, not knowing that one of them was Peter's girlfriend. And I looked and I thought, the guitarist has definitely just got that Gibson, because John was kind of, there's just something about his, you know, his attitude, his playing. I thought he's just bought that. I recognised Kelly because the Beatstalkers had played with the VIPs in Scotland, and you know. Couldn't quite hear Peter properly. And anyway, so I hung around for a bit and I left. And then Kelly, when I'd already left the building, and my car was, you could park anywhere then, the car was right outside, I left, and Kelly apparently came looking for me. So he said to Mano, who was the guy that just came in? And Mano says, well, he was auditioning with Streetwalkers. So Kelly went to Roger Chapman, and who he knew, got my phone number and phoned me and said, will you come for an audition? And I said, I'm not really sure. I really fancy playing guitar, going back to liking guitars. And he said, no, please come, you know, come and have a play. And I said, no, really. Anyway, he talked me into it. So I came and had a play, which for about an hour, I'd say 50 minutes of it was a bit disjointed. Okay. And then there was just a moment where it crystallized. And I thought, wow, that was unexpected. And then, you know, still left and said to Kelly, I'm not really sure. And then they invited me down to the house in Blackheath they were staying in. And again, had to be a little bit talked into it. And I went down, and it was Kelly, John and Zena, his wife, and his girlfriend, who was at the rehearsal. Yeah, and for about 40 minutes to an hour, Peter hadn't shown up, and I thought, right, that's it. I'm gone. And just as I was about to leave, Peter came in and said, "Oh, hi Alan, I'm really sorry, I've kept you waiting and all that. I was waiting for someone to wash my hair. I was in the bath." And I said, "Yeah, that happens to me all the time." And then they put on Watch You Drown and Out There in the Night, and I was sold. As soon as I heard the recording, I thought, wow, this is fantastic songwriting.
Now this is at the punk era, and it's kind of interesting because the punk era was always sort of like a disdain of musicianship, but the best punks were actually accomplished musicians and writers.
Yeah.
Elvis Costello was Joe Jackson.
I know.
Graham Parker. I mean, these were all Squeeze, they were all great writers. So
I think it was.
What was the balance?
I think it was we never, obviously, because of the musicianship or where we'd all come from, we never thought of ourselves as punks, but you couldn't go to a gig without being included in it.
Right.
There was certainly sometimes an attitude in some of Peter's songwriting that was
Right.
punk-like. There was an attitude that was similar, but not, we had guitar solos, and people were, early days where people were saying, you'll never get anywhere with your big long guitar solos. So it was in a sense, kind of by misfortune that bands like us and maybe the Police and a few other, there was quite a few bands that got lumped into punk.
Right, because it was a style. It was more of an attitude.
Yeah,
I guess,
it was
here.
a certain part of the attitude from Peter's writing, just a little bit, but it was romance, isn't it? And it's romance and decadence, and it was. I mean, I guess to quote something I said in the 70s is that, really to the punks we were hippies, and to the hippies we were punks. So, it was really, I'd come from playing more Tamla Motown, and so I think when I joined the Only Ones, my musician friends, they included Average White Band or Hamish, and a lot of musicians didn't quite understand why I made that choice initially. They were thinking, they'd come down to the speakeasy, and they didn't tell me at the time, but they would say, what's he doing playing with this lot? But he looks happy. And that was kind of, and then maybe a year later, then they got it. But we were guessing, if the punk scene hadn't happened, which was fantastic, because
it revitalized.
Yeah, it took people out of the ivory towers to run around and watch bands,
Right.
So, but we never thought of ourselves as punk. We didn't really.
Right, and like I said, like Paul Weller, Tom Lamote,
Yeah.
the Style Council. So
That's right.
That rhythm and blues was always there.
Yeah.
Just that you had thin ties.
And the attitude, a bit of, a little bit of attitude.
Yeah, more attitude.
Yeah. It was a bit more, but very musical.
And then the Only Ones, they were cited by bands like the Libertines as influences. How did
Yeah.
it feel to be an older statesman?
Yeah, I know. Well, I think the fact that the music still means, means a lot to people. I think that's the gift of it, really.
Yeah.
The fact that somehow you've done music that still means, still means a lot to people. So, because round about, I'd say the early 90s, not that many people talked, about the Only Ones, and I would hear music, and some people were singing just like Peter, and I'm thinking, it was so obvious.
Yeah.
But and then I'm sure probably people said to them, "You sound like Peter Perrett," and they must have been, "How do you know?" Kind of. So.